Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth, and for some, it's the highest point of their lives. But behind the iconic photos and the flags on the summit lies something far more complex, and far more expensive than most realize. This mountain isn't just a test of endurance anymore, it's a multi-million-dollar machine, a global marketplace built on frozen ground, death zones, and human ambition. Every year, climbers pay tens of thousands of dollars to reach the top, and for some it costs everything. Where does that money go? Who profits from this obsession with elevation? And what happens to the people who live in Everest's shadow? The ones carrying the weight so others can chase glory. This is not just a story about mountaineering, it's the story of an economy, of supply and demand at 8,848 meters. Welcome to Everest, where dreams are for sale, and everything has a price. Standing on the summit of Everest might last just 15 minutes, but the journey to get there starts months, even years earlier. And from the very beginning, the costs are staggering. To climb Mount Everest legally, every foreign climber must first pay a non-refundable permit fee to the Nepalese government. In 2025, that fee is set at $15,000 per person, one of the highest single mountain fees in the world, but that's just the entry ticket. Climbers also pay expedition operators for logistics, guides, Sherpas, gear transport, food, tents, oxygen bottles, porters, communication systems, and more. Depending on the level of support and luxury, the total cost ranges between $57,000 and $100,000 for a standard climb. But for those seeking private guides, better safety, faster ascents, and the highest level of comfort, the price climbs to $200,000 or even $287,000. And these aren't rare exceptions. In a typical spring season, over 400 foreign climbers are granted permits to attempt Everest from the Nepal side. That alone generates more than $6 million in permit revenue for the government in just one season. And that's just one of many revenue streams. The permit system is tiered, and while foreigners pay the most, expedition companies must also pay for their support crew. For every paying climber, there are multiple team members, guides, cooks, Sherpas, and porters, all needing their own permits, meals, equipment, and compensation. Even before they land in Kathmandu, climbers have likely spent thousands preparing. Flights, hotels, insurance, and high-altitude training are part of the package. Many spend years saving for this one chance, selling cars, remortgaging homes, or crowdfunding their expedition. For Nepal, Everest has become a dependable cash machine. In 2022 alone, mountaineering earned the country over $13 million, with Everest being the single largest contributor. The mountain's reputation brings in more than just permit money. It drives entire sectors of the economy, from aviation and hospitality to retail and emergency services. This is what makes Everest so unique. It's not just a physical challenge, it's a financial engine, running on ambition, tourism, and prestige. And while climbers may see Everest as a one-time dream, for Nepal, it's a recurring income stream. Every year, the snow melts, the ropes are fixed, and the money starts flowing again. But where exactly does all that money go? Who's profiting the most? And how much actually stays in the hands of those risking their lives? That's where the story gets more complicated. The $15,000 permit is just the visible peak. But like Everest itself, most of the economy lies beneath the surface. What many people don't realize is how many industries orbit around a single expedition. Behind every climber are dozens of moving parts and thousands of jobs. You don't just climb Everest alone, you enter a system. Start with the most vital element, the Sherpas. These high-altitude workers are the backbone of every ascent. They fix ropes, set camps, carry oxygen, and often save lives, all while hauling 20 to 40 kilos of gear at dangerous altitudes. Depending on their experience, a Sherpa can earn anywhere from $2,500 to over $16,000 in a season, a fortune compared to Nepal's national average income, but still far below what clients pay. Some risk their lives for tips, others die in silence. Then come the porters, mostly lowland Nepalese workers who carry food, tents, fuel, and equipment from the villages to base camp. They earn around $15 to $20 a day, often carrying loads heavier than their own body weight. It's grueling work, but it's one of the few ways to earn income in the Kumbh region during the short climbing season. Next are the helicopter companies. The rise in luxury climbs and medical evacuations has made Everest one of the busiest heli zones in South Asia. A single round-trip evac can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. Some climbers pre-book heli downs as part of their package, skipping the hike out after their summit. Others are forced into one when altitude sickness, frostbite, or injury hits. In Kathmandu, a booming industry of gear shops, travel agencies, and training centers have built their entire model around Everest traffic. Climbers buy insulated suits, boots, crampons, satellite phones, and oxygen masks, most of which are either imported or rented at a steep markup. Internet services now offer satellite Wi-Fi from base camp, allowing clients to live stream their climb to sponsors and social media. And let's not forget the foreign expedition companies, often Western run, with price tags starting around $60,000 and going all the way up to six figures. Many contract local logistics companies like Seven Summit Treks, one of Nepal's biggest operators, to provide infrastructure. These hybrid partnerships allow high profits while outsourcing risk. Then there are the luxury expedition add-ons, massage therapists, gourmet chefs, private toilet tents, documentary film crews, and heated domes. These aren't fantasy, they're real services offered to the wealthy, few who want to conquer Everest in style. The result? An ecosystem that runs like a well-oiled business. From the remote villages of Lukla and Namche Bazaar to insurance offices in London, everyone is selling something: safety, speed, convenience, or glory. Everest may be in Nepal, but its economy is global. Insurance companies in the West, gear companies in the US and Europe, PR teams, content creators, they all take a slice of the Everest pie. And for every dollar spent on the mountain, only a fraction stays with the people who carry the burden. Yet despite this imbalance, tens of thousands rely on Everest season to survive. When spring comes, the mountain awakens, not just with climbers, but with cooks, cleaners, traders, pilots, and guides. A whole nation, in many ways, leans on this narrow window of time when the world's highest peak becomes its busiest. But how did we get here? How did one mountain grow into an industry that supports and endangers so many? That answer lies not in the base camps or boardrooms, but in the homes of the people who live beneath the shadow of Everest. For most climbers, Everest is a personal journey, a dream, a challenge, a symbol. But for Nepal, it's something far more practical. It's an economic lifeline. Tourism makes up nearly 7% of Nepal's GDP, and mountaineering, particularly Everest, is a central part of that. According to reports, over 75% of Nepal's mountaineering revenue comes from Everest alone. In a single good season, Everest can inject more than $13 million directly into government accounts, not including the local economies and businesses that depend on the influx. Entire regions live by Everest's rhythm. Villages like Lukla, Namche Bazaar, and Tengboshe transform into booming seasonal towns. Tea houses fill, trails get busy, and everything from bottled water to toilet paper gets sold at high-altitude premiums. For many families, one good Everest season can mean the difference between scraping by and building a future. In the Khumbu region, infrastructure like schools, clinics, and even Wi-Fi have developed in tandem with Everest tourism. Many Sherpa families have been able to send their children to school, in Kathmandu or even abroad, paid for by years of guiding on the mountain. The mountain has built homes, it has paid dowries, it has bought safety, but it has also taken. Everest is not a stable foundation, it's a fragile one. The region is heavily dependent on a narrow 2-month climbing window. If a season is canceled due to political unrest, natural disaster, or a global pandemic, like COVID in 2020, the entire Everest economy grinds to a halt. No climbers, no porters, no income. For many, that means hunger. And while Everest has made some communities wealthy, it's also widened the gap between those involved in tourism and those left out. Remote villages that don't lie along the trekking routes see little benefit. And even within the Sherpa community, wealth is uneven. The few who lead expeditions may thrive, the many who carry the loads still live paycheck to paycheck. At a national level, the dependence on Everest is both a blessing and a risk. It's consistent income, yes, but it's also concentrated. One mountain, one season, one stream of wealth. As climate change accelerates and geopolitical tensions rise, Nepal's economy is increasingly exposed to factors beyond its control. And there's something else, something harder to measure. Everest's transformation into an economic engine has also changed its identity. For centuries, it was sacred. It was Chomolungma, mother goddess of the world. Now it's a marketplace. Some say it's progress, others say it's a tragedy. But one thing is certain. Everest is no longer just a mountain. It is a brand, a business, and a national asset. It has built lives, it has taken them, and it continues to shape the destiny of a nation, 8,848 meters below its summit. In the Everest economy, money flows like glacier melt. Fast, powerful, but rarely evenly. Every year, tens of millions of dollars are funneled into the industry. But where that money ends up depends entirely on where you stand on the mountain. At the top of the economic ladder are the international expedition companies. Many of them are based in the US, Europe, or Australia. They charge premium prices for their brand name, safety record, and logistical networks. Often they subcontract the actual operations, the porters, Sherpas, tents, oxygen, to local Nepali outfitters. It's a model that maximizes profit while minimizing risk. These companies may collect $60,000 to $150,000 per client, while spending a fraction of that on the ground. Then there are the large Nepali logistics firms like Seven Summit Treks, which handle the bulk of the operations. They hire the staff, coordinate the equipment, and manage dozens of expeditions at once. They've grown into high-revenue businesses, respected but also controversial. Critics say they push volume over safety. Supporters argue they've made the Everest dream more accessible, and created jobs in the process. Closer to the snow line are the guides and Sherpas, the ones who set the ropes, carry the loads, and walk beside clients through the death zone. Their pay varies widely. An experienced climbing Sherpa might make $8,000 to $16,000 in a season. That's life-changing money in Nepal. But it comes at a cost. They take on the highest risk, spend weeks away from their families, and often make life or death decisions on the mountain for clients who have paid 10 times more. Many Sherpas don't see the summit as glory. They see it as work. Some have been to the top more than 20 times. Few of them celebrate it. As Kami Rita Sherpa, the man with the most Everest summits in history, said, "This is not about pride, it's about putting food on the table." Further down the mountain, porters, yak drivers, kitchen staff, and tea house owners earn modest wages, $10 to $25 per day. Their work is grueling and essential. They carry propane tanks, tents, ladders, and food supplies across high-altitude trails. Many do it without insurance or gear, sleeping in stone huts or under tarps. They don't get mentioned in summit reports. But without them, no expedition would leave base camp. The government, of course, takes its share through permit fees, but very little of that money trickles back to the people who actually keep Everest running. There's no social safety net, no pension for retired Sherpas, no fund for families of the fallen. And then, there's the invisible workforce, the families left behind, the wives who worry, the children who wait. Every Everest season brings home income, but also funerals. For many in the Khumbu Valley, the wealth Everest brings comes with a shadow. So when you hear that climbing Everest costs $100,000, the real question isn't why it's so expensive. It's why so many of the people who make it possible are still struggling to survive. There's a price tag on Everest that doesn't show up on any invoice. It's not found in spreadsheets or travel brochures, but it's real, and it's growing. Every year, people die on Everest. Some slip, some freeze, some simply run out of time. And while climbers understand the risks, many forget who carries the greatest burden, the Sherpas. Year after year, it's the support teams, not the clients, who account for the majority of deaths. They haul supplies through avalanche zones. They sleep above 7,000 meters. Without the medical support, climbers are guaranteed. They climb again and again so that others can do it once. And when tragedy strikes, it's their families who are left behind. Often with no compensation, no life insurance, and no recognition. The human toll is heavy, but so is the environmental one. Decades of expeditions have left the mountain littered with the remains of past climbs. Torn tents, broken ladders, frozen ropes, and thousands of empty oxygen bottles. Some call it the world's highest junkyard. Others call it a graveyard. Over 200 bodies remain on Everest, many too dangerous to recover. Their frozen silhouettes have become grim landmarks, reminders of the price some pay for others' dreams. Human waste has also become a serious crisis. On a busy season, base camp can host over 1,000 people. That's 1,000 people eating, drinking, and going to the bathroom on a glacier. Over time, this untreated waste seeps into the ice, contaminating local water sources downstream. The very communities Everest tourism is supposed to support are now at risk from the pollution it leaves behind. Some progress has been made. In recent years, Nepal introduced mandatory cleanup deposits for climbers. GPS trackers are now required. In 2024, a poo bag rule was enforced, but enforcement is difficult. And when summit fever kicks in, rules are often forgotten in the thin air. And then there's climate change. Everest is melting. The Khumbu Glacier is retreating faster than ever. Once permanent ice walls are collapsing. Bodies buried in snow decades ago are now emerging from the thinning ice. The warming threatens not just the route, but the entire ecosystem, including the villages that rely on glacial runoff for drinking water. For many, Everest is still a dream, but for those who live with it every day, it's becoming a question of survival. Profit can drive progress, but on Everest, it's also threatening the very mountain that made the money possible in the first place. With all the death, the pollution, and the rising costs, you might wonder, why do people still keep coming? Why is Everest busier now than ever before? The answer is simple and complicated. Everest has become more than just a mountain. It's a symbol, and symbols sell. For some, Everest is the ultimate status trophy. Reaching the top means joining an elite club. It says, "I made it." In the age of social media, a summit photo isn't just a memory. It's a brand, a headline, a lifestyle. People aren't just climbing mountains anymore. They're curating achievements, and Everest is the biggest one of all. For others, it's a business opportunity. Guiding clients, selling gear, flying helicopters, producing documentaries, Everest offers countless ways to turn altitude into income. Where most mountains offer a challenge, Everest offers a market. There's money in every meter. But perhaps the biggest reason the Everest economy keeps growing is this: Nepal needs it. The Khumbu region has become financially dependent on Everest season. From lodges and bakeries to trekking agencies and mobile towers, entire communities survive off the pulse of spring tourism. When the mountain shuts down, so do their livelihoods. Everest isn't just a peak anymore, it's a paycheck. Climbers are also coming from new places. Where the industry once catered mostly to Western adventurers, today's clients are increasingly from China, India, Russia, and the Middle East. Many come with money, but little mountaineering experience. Everest has adapted to meet them. With more guides, more infrastructure, and more risk, expedition companies, in turn, have adjusted their marketing. Today, you don't need to be an elite athlete to attempt Everest. Some operators proudly advertise, "No climbing experience required." With enough money, you'll be guided every step of the way. Helicopters can fly you in. Sherpas can carry your pack. Oxygen can keep you going. It's easy to criticize this, and many do. But the truth is, this model works, at least financially. The more accessible Everest becomes, the more people sign up. And the more people sign up, the more the system grows. Even the disasters haven't stopped it. In 1996, a storm killed 8 climbers in a single night, and yet the next year saw more permits issued. In 2014 and 2015, deadly avalanches and an earthquake halted the season. But once the ropes were fixed again, the crowds came back. Even COVID only paused the machine. It didn't stop it. Because behind the images of hardship and heroism, Everest is powered by something more powerful than ice or ambition: demand. And as long as the world keeps watching, as long as people keep dreaming, the Everest economy will keep climbing, no matter the cost. As Everest's economy keeps rising, so does the pressure, not just on the mountain, but on the country that manages it. Because behind the scenes, there's a battle unfolding between profit and protection, access and ethics, dreams and danger. Nepal finds itself in a difficult position. On one hand, Everest is its most powerful economic asset. On the other, it's becoming harder to manage. Overcrowding has led to tragic traffic jams in the death zone. In 2019, a single photo showed a line of climbers stretching down from the summit like a theme park ride. That same season, 11 people died, not from storms, but from exhaustion, exposure, and delays. In response, Nepal has proposed, and sometimes abandoned, various reforms: a minimum experience requirement for climbers, mandatory health checks, permit limits per season, raising the foreigner permit fee from $11,000 to $15,000 to reduce volume and increase revenue. Some argue this would help fund safety and waste management. Others say it would only make Everest more exclusive, a playground for the rich. In 2024, Nepal's Supreme Court intervened, demanding the government reduce the number of climbers and enforce stricter regulations. But with Everest bringing in so much foreign currency, it's hard to turn down the demand. Tourism officials are stuck, risk backlash from the global climbing community, or face more deaths and environmental damage. Even within the Sherpa community, there's division. Some welcome the growth. It brings jobs, education, and opportunity. Others feel the soul of the mountain is being sold. As one Sherpa guide told reporters after a record-breaking season, "We're proud to help people climb, but sometimes it feels like no one sees what it's doing to us." Foreign climbers and influencers often leave with stories, photos, and personal triumphs. But they also leave behind the risk, the waste, and the wait. all of which the locals carry long after summit season ends. International mountaineers and activists have begun to speak up. People like Reinhold Messner, the first person to summit Everest without oxygen, have condemned the commercialization. It's not adventure anymore, it's tourism, and it's dangerous. Others argue for balance, for a system that allows dreams to flourish but doesn't destroy the mountain in the process. That protects climbers and communities equally. That respects both ambition and the environment. Because Everest was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be earned. And now, the challenge isn't just the climb. It's deciding what kind of future Everest should have. If we turn it into a luxury product for the few, we risk losing what made it magical. But if we keep expanding with no limits, we may destroy what made it sacred. The summit may belong to the brave, but the mountain must be protected by all of us. Mount Everest will always call to the dreamers, the explorers, the seekers, the ones who want to touch the sky. But behind every summit lies a system, and behind every system, a choice. We can keep chasing the peak, or we can start protecting the path. Because in the end, Everest isn't just about who reaches the top. It's about who pays the price, and whether the mountain can survive the weight of our ambition.